Hello everyone, I missed you. I missed you a lot. I try to get these up every 2 weeks, and sometimes I'm early, sometimes I'm late. I try to get at least 2 of these studies up a month. And I am only a fellow student. That is what the name yogi means in yogi theosophy, because I wanted to take my name, my personality, who I am as an individual, out of it. I believe that's extremely important. So the teachings are what are the star here. And this is the key to theosophy, written 130 years ago, written down, I should say. These teachings have been written down throughout the ages, since the beginning of time. And this large batch came through at the end of the 19th century. This is written in question and answer form, and we are partners on the path. We study together. I'm not a teacher, I'm a fellow student. So I ask when we come on these together that you investigate these texts and apply them, digest them, disseminate them, discern, D-words. Do all those things yourself. Because where this learning, where this evolution and involution comes from is inside you. Okay, it can't come from anywhere else. So I just share these teachings because I really feel very strongly. And I don't really know exactly what I am doing. I just know that I'm supposed to be doing this. I feel it's very important to be of service in some way. It's a very strange thing because it's all a labor of love. I really don't know what the next thing is, but just to share these. So let's get started, shall we? We are on page 61, beginning section 5 of the Key to Theosophy. And I've lost my little coexistence bookmark, but that's okay. That's all good. So what I do is I read it out loud, and then I also have expanded on some of the definitions, some of the language. So beautiful, so mellifluous. At the end of the 19th century. We should speak more like this. We really should. But let's go ahead and go forward. It is on God and prayer, the fundamental teachings of theosophy. So the inquirer asks, do you believe in God? Theosophist, that depends on what you mean by the term. Inquirer, I mean the God of the Christians, of the Father and Jesus, the Creator, the biblical God of Moses, etc. In short. Theosophist answers, in such a God we do not believe. Now calm down, listen. We reject the idea of a personal or an extra-cosmic and anthropomorphic. Anthropomorphic means, many of you know what this means, but I don't know, Peter Rabbit, he was anthropomorphic. It's when human traits or attributes are given to things that are not human. Sometimes we put a face on the sun. That's anthropomorphizing the sun. So, okay. So, in such a God we do not believe. We reject the idea of a personal or an extra-cosmic and anthropomorphic God who is but the gigantic shadow of man. And not of man at his best either. The God of theology, we say, and we prove it, is a bundle of contradictions and a logical impossibility. Therefore, we will have nothing to do with him. So I would imagine some of you, if you found your way to this channel, might be resonating with those words. Perhaps I know that I did. I go, well, that doesn't make any sense. There's some big guy floating in the clouds far away, who doesn't care, gets angry, who has personal character defects of jealousy and rage. Inquirer, state your reasons, if you please. Theosophist, there are many, and cannot all receive attention, but here are a few. This God is called by his devotees as infinite and absolute, is he not? Inquirer, I believe he is. Theosophist, then, if infinite, for example, limitless, and especially if absolute, how can he have a form and be a creator of anything? Form implies limitation and a beginning to end, form, to be formed. In order to create, a being must think and plan. How can the absolute be supposed to think, to have any relation to whatever that which is limited and finite, conditioned? This is a philosophical and a logical absurdity. Even the Hebrew Kabbalah rejects such an idea, and therefore makes of the one in the absolute deific principle, deific meaning godlike, from deus, God, and the absolute deific principle an infinite unity called Ein Sof. So you've heard that before if you've studied Kabbalah, Ein Sof. Ein Sof is from Hebrew, it means the endless one, the endless, boundless, and with nature the non-existent, which is, okay, the non-existent, which is, but is not a being. Okay. In order to create, the creator has to become active. And as this is impossible for the absoluteness, the infinite principle had to be shown becoming the cause of evolution, not creation, in an indirect way, i.e. through the emanation from itself, which is another absurdity, due this time to the translators of the Kabbalah, of the Sephiroth. Now the Sephiroth, you will recognize this here. Okay. This is a beautiful symbol. This is a tree of life. And Sephiroth is how do I describe this? Emanations of the infinite revealing itself in physical and metaphysical ways on different planes and dimensions. It's represented by the spheres here on the tree of life, Sephiroth. This is actually a Christmas ornament, a laser cut Christmas ornament that we got. Anyway, okay. So there is a note here in the book that expands on this. So that was my explanation of Sephiroth. But then we go back into the key to Theosophy. How can the non-active eternal principle emanate or emit? How can the non-active eternal principle emanate or emit? The parabrum, I need to explain this. What is the parabrum? The parabrum, now from the Secret Doctrine, Volume 1, and Cosmogenesis, parabrum is not God, because it is not a God. It is that which is supreme and not supreme. It is supreme as cause, not supreme as effect. Parabrum is simply as a secondless reality. Parabrum is the all-inclusive cosmos, or rather the infinite cosmic space in the highest spiritual sense. So the footnote is, how can the non-active and eternal principle emanate or emit? The parabrum of the Vedantins. Now, Vedantins in Sanskrit, Veda means knowledge, Anta means the goal or the end of. So the parabrum of the Vedantins does nothing of the kind, nor does the Ein Sof of the Chaldean Kabbalah. It is an eternal and periodical law which causes an active and creative force, the Logos. So if you look up the word Logos, it is from Greek and it means word. So in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. Sound familiar? No. Anyway, so the Logos, to emanate from the ever-concealed and incomprehensible one principle at the beginning of every Maha Manvantara. So a Manvantara is a very long period of time. It literally is billions of solar years of creation. It is a wave of existence. In Theosophy, highly recommend Theosophy. They have a Theosophy wiki online where you can actually look up these definitions if you wish. Or in the Voice of the Silence over there, there's an amazing glossary that I put up. I still need to put up Glossary 3 on this channel. But a Manvantara is billions of years. Pralaya is the opposite of that. That is when things are not in activity and not being created. So it is the great breath of life, like sleep, like breath. Okay, let's go with sleep. You're awake, you're asleep. You're awake, you're asleep. Breath goes in, breath goes out. Tide goes in, tide goes out. Day becomes night, night becomes day. The great breath of life. So, how can the non-active eternal principle emanate or emit? The parabrum of the Vedantins does nothing of the kind, nor does the Ein Sof of the Chaldean Kabbalah. It is an eternal and periodical law which causes an active and creative force, the Logos, to emanate from the ever-concealed and incomprehensible one principle at the beginning of every Maha Manvantara, or new cycle of life. Inquirer: how about those Kabbalists or Kabbalists, either way, tomato, tomato, who, while being such, still believe in Jehovah or the Tetragrammaton. Now, the Tetragrammaton, I did a little video on this a while back before I started doing the actual teachings. It's a Greek word meaning 4 letters, and you will recognize it as YHWH. In Hebrew, the most widely accepted pronunciation of YHWH is Yahweh. But interestingly enough, Yahweh is also the sound YHWH. They say that which cannot be spoken. When you study the Kabbalah, they actually put a little dash, so they don't define God for you. You define it for yourself. That's very important. The pronunciation of Yahweh is said to have been breath. So it'd be Yahweh. Okay. Theosophist. They are at liberty, the Kabbalists, to believe in what they please, as their belief or disbelief can hardly affect a self-evident fact. The Jesuits tell us that 1 and 2 are not always 4 to a certainty, since it depends on the will of God to make 2 times 2 equal 5. Shall we accept their sophistry? Sophistry again meaning clever but false arguments in order to deceive. For all that, Inquirer, are you then atheists? Are you atheist then? Theosophist says, not that we know of, and not unless the epithet, which means a nickname or name of atheist, is to be applied to those who disbelieve in an anthropomorphic God. We believe in a universal divine principle, the root of all, from which all proceeds and from which all shall be absorbed at the end of the great cycle of being. Inquirer. But that's the old claim of pantheism. Now, for those of you who don't know what pantheism is, it's from the Greek word meaning pan, all, and theism, theos, God, so that everything is God, or that God is everything, or the divine is everything. All things are divine. And that's close. So listen to what the answer is here. The Inquirer says, this is the old claim of pantheism. So if you're pantheists, you cannot be deists. And if you are not deists, which means deism, if you want to look it up, you can. Deism means that God exists but is not participating. Basically, God created the world and then got the heck out of Dodge. That's only my interpretation. That's not what it says in the wiki, but you can look that up. Then you have to answer to the name of atheists. And the Theosophist answers, not necessarily so. The term pantheism is again one of the many abused terms whose real and primitive meaning has been distorted by blind prejudice and a one-sided view of it. If you accept the Christian etymology of this compound word, so you have pan, meaning all, and theos, meaning God, and then imagine and teach that this means that every stone and every tree in nature is a God, and the one God, then of course you will be right, and you will make pantheists fetish worshippers in addition to their legitimate name. Meaning that when people go to a tree saying that is the end all, that is the physical personification of the divine, that's what they're trying to clear up here in my understanding. But you will hardly be successful if you etymologize, which means to trace the origin of the word pantheism esoterically, and as we do, meaning theosophists, meaning the theosophical teaching, not meaning the Theosophical Society. However, I have found that in the Theosophical Society that there are theosophists that really do want to help humanity. There is money, there is power, there is real estate, and that corrupts. That does. But there was this channel that I did find, and I have endorsed before fellow theosophists and come to regret it because I have found that perhaps I need to remove principles from personalities. I believe that there are good people out there. I believe that there are people out there that wish to help humanity. I think it's Monadic Media. I want to say Monadic Media. It does some really brilliant videos on these teachings. And they seem to remove self from the teachings. So no matter what it is, remove the personality. Listen to the product. I'll put a link to them, hoping that they're not. I had an issue one time. I produced this book here, and I quoted someone originally in this book, and I found out later that the ethics and the ethos, they did not match with what I was wanting to do, which is I'm not looking for followers, not looking to create a new religion. I certainly don't want to endorse any human guru. So I believe that each and every one of us is our own, we are the higher and lower. We are all sparks of the divine. And this work is done inside. So use your own discernment. And some of those lessons, as painful as they were extremely valuable. So there are teachings out there on yogitheosophy.com, which is a link that this is what I do now. I'm a former broadcaster. So what I do is I come on and I share these book studies. I call them book studies because these are recorded and you're able to study together. You can revisit this, re-listen. I re-study all the time. I learn something new every time I revisit the texts. yogitheosophy.com. And I thought, okay, as a former broadcaster, I have a voice. I wish to be of service. This pounding desire and compassion to help. I have to use my skills, and I'm a presenter, so that's what I'm doing here. I've also voiced the texts and put them up online. They are available here on this channel. These are very powerful. This one, it was extremely cheeky and ignorant of me to think that this could be voiced, but I did my best. I did, and I thought was going to be just a few weeks, and it became months. And every time I even listen to a little bit of it or look at it again, something else comes out. This is a phenomenal text. It is available for free for download in the Yogi Theosophy bookshop. They should all be free. And this is a labor of love. So I invite you to join me for these, if you will. You can get the text. I will attach a text. This is not in the Yogi Theosophy bookshop, but I will put it in there. It is going up. You can find copies of it online. I will leave a link to the original text. And this one here, this one was one of the first ones that introduced me to these teachings. This is called Light on the Path. And I don't know if it's showing up backwards or not. I'm sorry if it is. This little tiny book, look how little it is, little itty bitty. I've also voiced it. It's on this channel if you wish to listen to it. I do live book studies here on the YouTube channel of this book. We'll do another one next week. And I'm just trying to see how those work out for, I am on GMT. I'm in London, well, outside London time. I'm in the southwest of the UK, so whatever time works best for you to do those live studies. Either way, know that you are welcome, you are loved. It is an honor to be here with you. And thank you for joining me for Key to Theosophy 15. I call them 15. It's actually the beginning of number 5. I love you.